This is an Amiibo. You might remember these guys as Nintendo's attempt at making a Toys to Life competitor, shoving it into every one of their major releases, whether it did anything or not.
With it, you can perform the popular praise the sun gesture with reckless abandon.
Despite what little they actually had to offer, people went nuts over them, making it one of Nintendo's most popular products at the time. These guys were absolutely everywhere, plaguing toy aisles around the world, and selling out whenever a new batch of them were released. The hype was so wild that stories of Amiibos selling for hundreds or even thousands of dollars began to crop up, and even wilder, a heist to steal thousands of dollars of rare Amiibos. They were truly a force to be reckoned with. But nowadays, they seem to be on their way out. Amiibos are now almost always shoved aside during presentations, with very little fanfare. And with less and less Amiibos being released each year, the writing is on the wall. What caused this sudden shift in tone? Well, I'm going to try and explain it all, from their humble beginnings, the chaotic middle, and the pathetic state they seem to be in now. Before we get to the fun stuff, we first must learn about Toys to Life. This was an interesting gimmick that allowed toys/figurines to be able to interact with certain games, either unlocking new features, levels, characters, or even cosmetics. It was a simple but brilliant idea, quickly becoming successful, with Activision being the first company to truly take advantage of it, basing an entire series on the idea. Skylanders was king when it came to Toys to Life, grossing over 3 billion units during its lifetime. With a business strategy as lucrative as this, of course other companies wanted a piece of that pie, and quickly came up with their own products to compete with. Enter Nintendo, who are no strangers when it comes to gimmicks, for better or for worse. Their willingness to dive into gimmicks have gotten them huge success in the past, but that same willingness also gave us the Virtual Boy, which, yeah. This didn't stop them, however, as they continued to be more experimental, especially after the success of the Wii, giving us such classics as a handheld with glasses-free 3D that barely worked, or having a console/tablet hybrid that couldn't work unless you were within 5 feet of the console. This type of behavior almost bankrupted them. So when it came to Toys to Life, of course Nintendo tried their hardest to capitalize on it. Nintendo has tried similar concepts in the past, such as with the e-reader, an ahead-of-its-time gimmick that no one knew how to work, so it quickly faded into obscurity. But once Skylanders took off, they tried again with Pokemon Rumble U, which also failed because that game wasn't very good. That wouldn't stop them, however, as they would soon try again, but this time based it off a game that people actually liked. Nintendo teased their new Toys to Life competitor during the 2014 E3 presentation, showing off a Mario figurine somehow interacting with the newest Super Smash Bros. Game, calling them Amiibo. Apparently, it stems from the French saying called ami, which is a sentiment you would have when playing with a friend. I don't really get it either. I just always assumed they were a play on the words amigo. Nintendo had this neat idea where an Amiibo could function on multiple different games, and since the Wii U had a built-in NFC reader, no additional accessories were required to use them, unlike other games, which usually required to have extra peripherals to even be able to play those games properly. They would also announce that they would release a line of Super Smash Bros. Themed Amiibos, which was amazing. Smash Bros. Is a series known for having multiple different franchises cross over so they could beat the shit out of each other, and the games themselves also had a similar concept with the trophies, so bringing the idea to life was actually brilliant. Being able to have an Amiibo of your favorite fighter was going to be a surefire hit. Now, what did they do exactly? Their functionality, at least for Smash, was lame. So get this, if you scanned an Amiibo into Smash Bros., it would spawn a CPU of that specific character. You could then fight the CPU, making it gain more experience and allowing it to get stronger, learn your playstyle, and even give it custom moves. I'll be honest, this idea kinda stinks. Smash Bros. Has always been the most fun when you play it with other people, so having a new gimmick where you not only play with another CPU made the idea more of a waste of time than anything else. Don't get me wrong, I did have fun playing with some Amiibo, but it's a gimmick that at best, most people will only play with once, and that was it. The first batch of Amiibos were set to launch as the same day as Super Smash Bros. For Wii U's release. Yes, that's really the title. So the day finally comes, and Super Smash Bros. For Wii U is finally released, and it was an immediate hit. And Amiibos were there too. They kinda had a lukewarm reception since again, most people really didn't care all that much about what they had to offer. It almost looked like they were going to be a flop, until news broke out that some Amiibos started to become rare and were being resold online for a hefty amount. Many began to catch drift of this, and soon after, Amiibos began to sell out like hotcakes. Somehow, Amiibos became the hit that Nintendo was looking for, even if most people never actually used them the way Nintendo intended. The main reason why some Amiibos became so rare early on is because, simply put, nobody wanted them, and as a result, Nintendo printed less of them, especially for the least popular characters. During its first wave, the most sought after were the unholy trinity of Marth, Wii Fit Trainer, and Villager, with each one of them reaching extreme prices. Coupled with the fact that there was no guarantee that Nintendo was going to reprint them, only made them that much more valuable. There were also stories of factory defect Amiibos that were being sold for thousands of dollars online, such as the Samus with 2 arm cannons that sold for $2,500. Or this Peach Amiibo with no legs that sold for a whopping $25,000. This only caused more people to buy into the hype, even though they didn't own a Wii U. The idea of being able to buy a figurine that could potentially be worth thousands enticed many people into collecting them. Soon after, the second wave of Amiibos were launched, and almost immediately, some Amiibos became hard to find, meaning one thing: the scalpers had arrived. For those of you lucky enough not to know what a scalper is, they are the people who buy a certain product with the intent of reselling it, usually for a much higher price. They were the same people who mass bought PS5s, making them near impossible to even get. And here's a fun fact: no one likes them. They kinda ruin the fun for everyone, since if you're not lucky enough to buy a popular product on release, then there's almost no chance of being able to buy it without having to pay stupid prices from scalpers. Not only that, but a certain elephant started to creep in. Nintendo has been infamous for having an extreme case of never having enough supply, causing products that would otherwise be readily available become rare, and that problem started to rear its ugly head once more as Amiibos became popular. Simply put, Nintendo could not keep up with the demand, and resulted in many Amiibo shortages, causing the more sought-after Amiibos to become more rare. Despite this, Nintendo seemed to ignore this issue as they wanted to continue the hype by announcing even more Amiibos, and even worse, announcing store exclusives. This is when things started to become very stupid. Many began to panic even more so than usual, since now you would have to pre-order an Amiibo to even get a chance at getting one. Almost immediately, all pre-orders sold out the moment they went live, and if you weren't fortunate enough to be up at 2 AM on a Wednesday night, then tough luck. Many began to grow frustrated, as some Amiibos have seemingly become impossible to find, and there was almost no guaranteed chance of being able to find the one you wanted in stores. Some amusing stories did begin to crop up during this time. For instance, there was this Nintendo collector who hated Rosalina so much that they were reportedly going to spend over $35,000 on just her Amiibo alone, so no one else would be able to get her. Apparently, he despised her character design so much that he did the most logical thing and pre-ordered over 100 of her Amiibo. He did this in order to send Nintendo a message that no one wanted her, but I'm not sure how buying all of her stock would send the message that she was unpopular, but okay. He also stated that he was going to do the same for other characters that he hated, and he already posted multiple photos of them with other rare Amiibos and given the finger. Lovely. Probably the best story to come out of this craze was the time an entire truck full of rare Amiibos was stolen. Somehow, someone managed to hijack a truck on its route to a UK-based retail store game that was full of rare Splatoon special editions that came packaged with a Squid Amiibo. If you didn't know, the only way to get this Amiibo was by getting the special edition of the game, at least in the EU. The funniest thing to come out of this was that most people learned about this once Game sent out a notice to its customers that their pre-ordered Amiibos were going to be substituted for a standard edition of the game, with a £10 discount. Oh, you shouldn't have. Somehow, no one knows exactly how it happened, and to my knowledge, the perpetrator was never caught, and got away with potentially stealing thousands of dollars worth of Amiibo. So as you could probably tell, Amiibo hunting was getting a bit more serious. As you may have noticed, we really haven't talked all that much about the Amiibos themselves, mostly because what they offered was so minuscule that most players just ignored them. It didn't help with how poorly Nintendo tried to market them as well. Just look at this creepy trailer where this kid tries to get it with his friend's sister by playing with Amiibos.
Mario and Peach together. Me and Gina together.
Yes, this is real.
DK's in, this is gonna be bananas.
Again, with Amiibos being super popular, you would have thought that they would offer something really cool for the games they were being advertised for, but more often than not, they really weren't all that necessary. For example, when Amiibo functionality was finally added to Mario Kart 8, all it did was unlock costumes for the Mii characters, which no one plays, so that was a bit useless. The Captain Falcon costume is pretty cool though, or how in Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, all it did was unlock a minigame for finding a small toad on the map. Exciting. And don't even get me started on the Smash Bros. Ones because I feel like that was a huge missed opportunity. For those of you who don't know, in Smash Bros. You have to unlock characters, and using Amiibos as a shortcut to unlock them would have been a fun use for them. Maybe even unlocking their in-game trophy, or a special one-of-a-kind Amiibo trophy on top of what they already offered. But just having them be CPUs that you have to train kinda made them not worthwhile at all, and explains why a majority of people never even bothered to open their Amiibos from the box. Despite how lame some of the content was, there was some games that took advantage of Amiibo. Splatoon had a great use of them, unlocking exclusive gear for your character, which unfortunately caused these guys to go rare, go figure. The most memorable of these gimmicks was Super Mario Maker, which would unlock a skin of the Amiibo you tapped in, allowing players to make themed levels of that specific character. Some of these skins were pretty intricate as well, having a lot more sprites than you would think, and even having unique sounds, which I think made the feature that much more endearing. Yoshi's Woolly World also had a similar concept, and they mostly worked, but oftentimes, these skins would feel incredibly cursed. Speaking of Yoshi, look at these incredible cute Yarn Yoshi amiibos, which are so damn cute it hurts. I don't even know what they do specifically, but I don't care because look at them. They even made a Mega Yarn Yoshi amiibo, but good luck getting that one without going broke. Animal Crossing had the best use of amiibos in my opinion, as they will allow you to unlock a specific villager to your town. In this game, being able to summon your favorite villager without having to hunt for them for hours on end made these amiibos especially useful. And since there are like over 400 villagers, Nintendo made the smart decision and made them into cards. Imagine if Nintendo decided to actually make figurines of these very not popular characters. That would have been a disaster. As a side note, the quality of these amiibos would widely vary. Some amiibos translate really well and almost look exactly like their game counterparts, but the more humanoid characters will look, well, let's just say they could have done better. They definitely got better over time. I mean, just look at the first Inkling amiibo compared to that one of the Smash Bros. Version, or even the Splatoon 3 version. They definitely upped their quality over the years. A majority of games largely did nothing with Amiibo, but this didn't stop Nintendo from pushing this product and almost always forcing the Amiibo feature onto every new game during this time. Looking back on this era, a lot of Nintendo games had some sort of Amiibo integration and all the wacky stuff they could unlock, which just kinda shows off just how much effort was put into them. This is it. The thing that anyone who collected Amiibos remembers, and how dreadful it was. During this time, Amiibos hit their all-time peak, almost every fan wanted them, and scalpers even more. Coupled with the fact that a majority of these Amiibos were slated to be rare, and learning their lessons from the last wave, everyone mentally prepared to even try to get their pre-orders this time around. Stores were also beginning to see a problem, as some customers will buy out the whole lot of Amiibos in order to resell them, so they started to put in limits as to how many people could buy at once. It was getting that bad. But worst of all, store exclusives came back. It was bad enough trying to do it the last time, but now that Amiibo Madness had reached its peak, almost everyone was ready to jump at the chance to even get their hands on these precious Amiibos. As soon as the dates for the pre-orders went live, that's when all hell broke loose. First, Jigglypuff, who at the last minute was announced to be a Target exclusive, and just like Rosalina beforehand, went live at such a strange hour that if you weren't regularly checking the site, you immediately lost your chance at even getting the pre-order, meaning that you had to go to a Target at the early hours of the morning to even try to get a chance of getting them. Next, Greninja, who was a Toys R Us exclusive, had similar problems to Jigglypuff, but Toys R Us was being really coy when they would announce when the pre-orders would go live. Unfortunately for most people, it went live in the middle of the night when most people weren't looking, meaning another store that you had to go early to even try and get. And lastly, Ness, who was a GameStop exclusive. GameStop actually announced what day and time their Amiibo pre-orders would go live, on April 1st, 2015, at roughly 3 p.m. Central. But, as it turned out, GameStop did an oopsie and lied to their customers, revealing in a leaked memo that pre-orders wouldn't actually go live at 3 p.m., but rather at an unspecified time. It was also revealed that people who visited the store would get priority over people trying to get them online. So once 3 p.m. finally came, almost everyone waited in both stores and online to try and get their Amiibos. There was tension in the air, as everyone knew they had a chance at getting them. And once pre-orders actually went live, GameStop went down, And not just the website, but the entire GameStop network just up and crashed. So what exactly happened? Well, as soon as pre-orders went live, everyone from both stores and online were trying to get Amiibos all at the same time, and GameStop was so overwhelmed that it couldn't really process it. The website will allow you to buy them, if you could even access the website with the heavy amount of traffic it was being slammed with. It was even worse for stores, since their register system just flat out crashed and it would take an hour just to process one order. By the end of all this, nobody was happy. This, I felt, broke a lot of people, as the realization soon dawned on them that they were most likely not going to be able to get their hands on the Amiibos they wanted, without buying them secondhand for a much higher price. Because of this, interest slowly began to dwindle, as with each new wave announcement, less and less people became interested in trying to collect them all, as they would have to face hundreds of others trying to do the same thing, and simply put, they didn't want to bother with them anymore. And since Nintendo was being really stingy on reprinting some of these Amiibo, the hobby as a whole started to die down. Slowly but surely, Nintendo actually began to reprint some of the Amiibo, as well as announcing new lines from different series, but the damage had already been done, as not many people went crazy over collecting Amiibos. There were the Gold and Silver Mario variants that some people did go out of their way to get, but other than that, most people just kinda stopped caring, and their popularity only dampened further once the Animal Crossing Amiibos were released. Remember how I said earlier that releasing a line of Amiibos on characters that were nowhere near as popular as the Smash Bros. Line would be a disaster? Well, that's exactly what happened as soon as the Animal Crossing Amiibos came out. These guys would plague the entire Amiibo aisle. They were so unpopular that they constantly went on sale because nobody wanted to buy them. And to add insult to injury, more people were interested in buying the Animal Crossing Amiibo cards than the actual Amiibo figurines themselves. There was also a lot of Animal Crossing Amiibos, more than you would think, and nothing was more frustrating than trying to find an Amiibo you actually wanted, only to find the entire aisle filled with these guys. If Amiibos were already starting to wane in popularity, these guys made them fall off a cliff. Once Nintendo actually started to reprint some of the more popular Amiibos, most people had already tuned out. I think people might have just been sick of the Toys to Life in general since the market had just become flooded with them. Not to mention that since Nintendo started to do reprints, it devalued a lot of once rare Amiibos, which only caused the interest to fall even further. The writing was on the wall, and slowly but surely, almost all the companies started to slowly cancel their own Toys to Life lineups. Skylanders stopped production on their profitable franchise in 2016, with no new console game or figurines coming out since. Disney Infinity just died halfway through Series 3, abruptly stopping all production on their lineup and closing down its game studios, with LEGO Dimensions also announcing that they would cancel their future plans with the game. Nintendo was also struggling with Amiibos. While people were still looking forward to the Smash lineup, there was no other series of figurines that got the fans as excited for them. Smash Bros. Being the first line of Amiibos was both a blessing and a curse. Since the Amiibo line started off so strong, it was hard trying to keep the momentum going. Despite this, Nintendo did pump out Amiibos. Some were admittedly pretty cool, like the Yarn Yoshi Amiibos, but not something that was going to revive the Amiibo craze, and it almost looked like Amiibos were on their way out. This could have been a result from the fact that most people didn't own a Wii U, giving even less of an incentive to collect them. Once the next console was announced, there was this feeling in the air that Amiibos were on their last legs. But for whatever reason, Nintendo just kept making more of them, and showing off that their new console still had NFC support built in, and even announcing a new line of Amiibos for Breath of the Wild. This revitalized Amiibos for a short second, but it was nowhere near the craze as it was during its peak. Still, Nintendo kept making more of them, making some of the best in the entire lineup. The quality of them was only improving with each new Amiibo. But funnily enough, Amiibos became popular once again, not because of the figurines, but rather the Animal Crossing Amiibo cards of all things. Mass amounts of people went out of their way to buy and collect them once the new Animal Crossing game, New Horizons, had just come out. That game became a monumental success, and it only made Amiibo cards explode in popularity. Just take a look at Google Trends. You could see that Amiibos peaked in 2015 until 2020 when it spiked alongside the release of New Horizons. This popularity was only brief though, and soon dissipated once New Horizons hype died down, and with it, Amiibo's last time at true relevance. Amiibos are truly a shell of their former selves. Once one of Nintendo's flagship properties has been reduced down to a thing that some people remember. Amiibos went from owning entire store aisles to now being mostly tucked away in a small corner. Nintendo is still staying dedicated to them as they keep making new Amiibos, even announcing a new one at the end of the Tears of the Kingdom trailer, but almost feeling like an afterthought with how shoehorned the announcement felt. Like, here it is, pre-order now. Who knows how much longer Amiibo support will continue, as there's seemingly no big Amiibo announcements that will rejuvenate people's interest in them. With the Smash Bros. Line almost at an end, maybe Amiibos will go out with them. I do love these little guys, and I still plan on collecting every single Smash Bros. Amiibo, because despite how lame they function as toys to life, they will forever be some of my favorite Nintendo products, even if they do look a little fucked up from time to time.
Koopa さんね。これ見えます？アミーボ新登場。